welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 12-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, I have released multiple MLB packages over there on Patreon, including my DFS package as well as my MLB betting package. And then you can get my combo package, which includes the benefits of all. If you get my package, you'll get access to things like my pitcher data sheet, my hot hitter StatCast data, my team hitting data, my bullpen data, my power rankings, and my cheat sheet. So a bunch of tools to help improve your DFS game, help improve your lineups. And you'll get access to my Discord chat where you can ask me questions all the way up until lock regarding today's main slate. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. You can follow me over on Twitter at KJK_DFS. And then I've also released a merch store. Link will be in the description for that as well. I haven't really mentioned that in my videos. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested in some KJK DFS merch. So with that being said, enough of the promo stuff. Let's start breaking down this slate today. And as always, I'd like to go ahead and figure out the pitchers with the best K rate on the slate. It's Fantasy Sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the top guy on our slate is that in Garrett Cole today. Coming in with a 36.7% K rate, and he gets to take on the K-happy Baltimore Orioles. So Garrett Cole definitely stands out as the top pitcher on the slate. He's got a 36.7% K rate. Against righties, it's a 32.5% K rate, and against lefties, it bumps up to a 41% K rate. And he's just green across the board. Even his weaknesses are yellow. It's Garrett Cole. He's a stud. We know what we're getting with him. And while he has had some struggles as of late, I think this is a great spot to go ahead and jump on the Cole train, so to speak, because he is down to 10-3, which I think is a cheaper price tag than you would normally get for Garrett Cole, and he has a tremendous matchup taking on the Baltimore Orioles. And when looking at the Vegas lines, he's a 264 favorite. So Garrett Cole, definitely the first pitcher I have to mention on today's slate. Definitely have a lot of interest in him. Second on the list is that in Seth Lugo, who I think the Mets are converting over to a starter, but I'm not really sure on the pitch count that Lugo's going to have today. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. So for any of my Patreon members, keep an eye on the Discord chat and feel free to ask me questions as far as that's concerned, because we'll have to look into that later. But Lugo does have the second highest K rate on the slate. And with that being said, while he looks really good, I don't really know if he's going to be stretched out, as I had mentioned. And then I also have to mention that these Philadelphia Phillies haven't been striking out a lot in the year. So while he is second on the slate in K rate, he's definitely not my second option. And my second option would be that in Kenta Maeda. Kenta Maeda gets to take on the Detroit Tigers. He has a 28.1% K rate. He's got a 33.7% K rate against righties and then a 22.6% against lefties. So we do prefer him in right-handed heavy matchups if at all possible. And when looking at the Detroit Tigers lineup that he's taken on today, you can see that they do have their fair share of righties, 1, 2, 3 at the bottom, and then 4, 5 at the top, and then they have a few switch hitters and a lefty thrown in there. But at the end of the day, this Tigers team is one that you're going to want to target because they just strike out a ton. When looking at my team hitting data sheet, if we scroll down to the Tigers, we can see that they have a 26.6% K rate overall. It's right on my sheet, very bad. And then against right-handed pitching, it's a 27.8% K rate. So Tigers are not a good team. They're a team we're going to want to target with pitching. And when we get a pitcher like Kenta Maeda, we have a ton of interest in targeting him, with a 28.1% K rate. And just elite stuff all around. He keeps the ball on the ground. He's controlled. And we're going to have a lot of interest in Kenta Maeda. And then you factor in the fact that he is a 245 favorite. Vegas likes him to pick up the win here. So Kenta Maeda, second on my list, comes in at a 10-1 price tag compared to Garrett Cole's price tag that we had discussed earlier at a 10-3 price tag. So they're very close. And unless you're playing both in your lineups, you're going to have to pick between the two, and they're both in great spots. So I would tend to side with Cole because of the strikeout rate. When looking at the two, Cole does have, an 8% strikeout advantage on Kenta Maeda, and then he also has a better swinging strike rate. So I would definitely side with Cole. But if you can go ahead and fit both of these guys in your lineups, you feel really good about that. So when we start breaking down the bats after these pitchers, maybe that's something we can think about today. Third guy to mention is that Lucas Giolito. Taking on the Kansas City Royals, he has a 25.1% K rate. Pretty orange across the board, below average as far as the ground ball, the fly ball, and the walk rate and all that stuff. But he's got good strikeout stuff, and he's consistent. Even his weaknesses aren't that bad. We're dealing with a lot of orange-yellow. There's not any red showing up outside of the fly ball and the ground ball against lefties, and even that, it's a lighter shade. So, my sheet, he grades out really well, and then he's taking on the Kansas City Royals, which isn't exactly the most threatening lineup in the league. And he's definitely a guy that we can go ahead and target today because He's been elite this year. He had that no-hitter in the middle of the year, so that obviously stands out a bunch. When a guy throws a no-no, he's on top of his game. And he comes in at a 10.5 price tag, so he's actually priced a tier above, Garrett Cole and Kenta Maeda. And with that being said, I would tend to side with those two pitchers. So while Lucas Giolito is definitely in the top 3 of our options today, I would definitely tend to want to pay down for those other two because I think they're in pretty much just as good spots and they're cheaper. So I would side with them. And then moving further along, as far as pitching on the low end today, I really don't think I would target anyone outside of 2 guys. Well, actually, we'll say 3. So we got Kyle Gibson, Trevor Cahill, and as I had already mentioned, Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo is only 5.6K, so I'm really interested to see the pitch count news on him because if he's only 5.6, if he's not a complete opener, if they're only throwing him out there for a couple innings, maybe not worth it unless we find some expensive bats we really, really want to get in our lineups. But he's a really good pitcher. It's just the pitch count that I'm concerned about. So definitely something to keep an eye on there because that's going to be real interesting at his cheap price tag. But the last 2 guys, like I had mentioned, Kyle Gibson, we'll just go over them real quick and then we'll move into bats. So Kyle Gibson right down here, taking on the Seattle Mariners. And he's a guy that he doesn't have the highest strikeout rate, but he's really good in the ground ball and the fly ball category. Against righties, he's same type of deal, average across the board, but really good against in the ground ball and the fly ball. But he does have a 24.8% K rate against lefties, and then righties, and then against lefties, it drops down to a 19% K rate. So he's a guy we're going to want to target in right-handed heavy lineups. When he's taking on right-handed heavy lineups, when you're looking at the Seattle Mariners, they don't really impose much of a threat, and they do have quite a bit of righties in there. So while he's not the favorite in this game, I think it's more of a price tag thing. He comes in at a 6.2 price tag. And then his opponent, I just said I wanted to mention 2 more guys, but his opponent, Justice Sheffield, comes in facing these Texas Rangers. And when looking at my team hitting data sheet, if we scroll up to the Rangers here, you can see they've been really less than impressive this year in their lineup. And what really stands out is their strikeout rate against lefties, and their numbers against lefties not good. So he's a guy you could also throw in your lineup. So I just want to mention that real quick because that stuck out on my team hitting data sheet, and he does have average numbers across the board at 21% K rate, and then against lefties, he's pretty well, and righties he's a little below average, but the ground ball and the fly ball stuff's good. So he's another guy to throw out. And the last guy is Trevor Cahill. I promise, last guy before we get into bats. Trevor Cahill, 20.6% K rate. The ground ball, the fly ball stuff is really good against righties, and then against lefties, he's just solid across the board. He has a 20% K rate, and he takes on this Arizona Diamondbacks team, who right now when looking at their lineup, they're not really the most threatening lineup in the world, and he gets to pitch in San Francisco, which is a great pitching environment. And he's a 122 favorite taking on Madison Bumgarner. So at 6.6, I think that Trevor Cahill is a guy that you can play today. So that's enough about the pitching. Let's start breaking down some bats we're going to want to target. And when looking at the bats I want to target, I always like to figure out the guys that have the worst SIERA on the slate. Skill and active ERA is a stat that I weigh heavily when looking at my bats that I'm going to want to target. And the first guy that stands out today to target is that in Brandon Bielik of the Houston Astros, taking on the Los Angeles Angels. He has a big walk problem. You can see a 14.6% walk rate, and then his swinging strike rate, his ground ball, and all of his hard contact rates have really been not good. Slugging against righties, not good. And lefties, he's actually been more good as far as the hard contact rate, but the fly ball, the walk, and the ground ball issues are still occurring. So we're only dealing with a 23 innings pitch sample size, but it does look like we can go ahead and target these righties with a ton of confidence. And when looking at the weather in LA, I don't know if this is accurate, but if it is, this is crazy good hitting environment because it's saying it's 112 degrees with 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. Yeah, that's like scary good, very hot, very good hitting conditions. And then not to mention Los Angeles is actually a pretty good hitter's ballpark that doesn't get talked about enough. And this Los Angeles lineup has a bunch of right-handed hitting. Their best hitters are righties: Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, Justin Upton, Albert Pujols, Joe Adell, the young prospect. Shohei Ohtani is the only one that's a lefty, and I think we can go ahead and play him anyways because it's not like Bielik's been good to either side of the plate. Limited sample size with him, but I think it's something that's standing out early on. And his SIERA has been bad. which factors in, how good he's been and how he's projected to be, which, once again, small sample size, but I do think maybe it's a sneaky play because, Bielik's priced in the mid-range at A3 on DraftKings, and people might not want to play bats against him. I think we can go ahead and play these Los Angeles Angels today. Speaking of splits problems, we're going to move over to this New York Mets Philadelphia Philly game because this Spencer Howard kid is a top prospect for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's supposed to be the real deal, but when looking at his numbers early on, he has had some big issues against left-handed hitting. So go ahead and highlight Spencer Howard for you guys, taking on the New York Mets once again, as I had mentioned. But against righties, you can see he's pretty consistent, not bad at all. Against lefties, he has been bad, like terrible. 757 slugging, 485 WOBA, 48.4% fly ball rate, just absolutely getting torn up against left-handed hitters, and he has a 14.3% K rate. A guy that's striking out 23.1% of batters from the right, and it drops down to a 14.3% K rate against lefties, stands out in a major way to me today. And I absolutely love these Mets lefties. I really liked these Mets lefties last night. And, they didn't really come through for us in the most optimal way that I was hoping for. And I'm just going to go back to the well again today because this Spencer Howard kid is just, I showed you the stats. I think I gave you the reasoning. And I think we can just go ahead and target every single lefty in this lineup and absolutely love it. I would shy away from the righties as far as, being all in on them. But then again, you do have to fill out your stacks. So a guy like J.D. Davis, Pete Alonso, they do have a ton of power. So I'm not saying don't play them. Just prioritize these lefties because I already showed you the stats and we're definitely going to like these guys. So my favorite ones are Nimmo, Conforto, Dominic Smith, and Robbie Cano. That 1 through 5 range in this lineup. Go ahead and stack those guys up and feel real good because, Spencer Howard has been terrible against lefties. Can't emphasize it enough. I like these Mets lefties today. And then speaking of splits, we get another splitsy guy in Chris Bubic taking on the Chicago White Sox. Looking at Bubic's numbers, he has a 4.62 Sierra, not good. He's got a lot of orange going on. And then against righties, he gives up a 453 slugging. And against lefties, he's actually been even worse. But to be honest, what really stands out is, well, one, he's below impressive, but two, when looking at my team headed data sheet, part of my Patreon package over there, I had looked at these Chicago White Sox earlier before the video, and they are actually first in the league in slugging against left-handed pitching right now. They have a 571 slugging as a team, a 268 ISO, and a 398 WOBA, 46.8% hard hit rate. They are just absolutely tearing up left-handed pitching this year. And that is just going to make me really like this Chicago White Sox team. And I like every single righty in this lineup. I like Tim Anderson. I like Eloy Jimenez. I like Jose Abreu, Edwin Encarnacion, Luis Robert, James McCann, Adam Engel, Nick Madrigal. I like them all. And Yohan Moncada is a switch hitter. So he's going to take on, while he does excel more from the left-handed side of the plate, if they can get him at Chris Bubic out of this game early, the Kansas City Royal bullpen stinks. So they're going to face those guys. And this Chicago White Sox team is just in a great spot. Not to mention they're on the road, so no matter what happens, they're going to get their top of the ninth inning at bats. Something that people don't think about when they're playing DFS. If a team's on the road and they're up by 8 runs, they still get the hit in the ninth inning. If they're the home team, they're not going to get the hit again. So that just increases the appeal of the Chicago White Sox. Like the White Sox a lot today. They just are in a great spot. Some of these teams are in real good spots. I'd mentioned the Mets lefties, the Chicago Whites righties. And then we get to go and talk about our friend over here, Eric Feyty, who's taken on the Atlanta Braves, Eric Feyty is not a good pitcher. I enjoy targeting him in daily fantasy sports. He comes in with the second worst Sierra on the slate at a 5.2. The K rate and the swinging strike rate is terrible. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's pretty good. Against righties, he's respectable, but doesn't get any swinging strikes. And then against lefties, same sort of deal. He just lets the ball get put in play, and while the ground ball and the fly ball rates pretty, I guess that's impressive because it's top of the slate. But when you're taking on elite bats, such as the ones that the Atlanta Braves have, and you're not missing bats, the ground ball and the fly ball rate don't really matter because these guys are definitely going to be able to hit the ball in the air, and they have guys that can crush. So this 1 through 4 stack is looking real juicy today. Acuna, Swanson, Freeman, Ozuna, if you can fit those guys in. And then the bottom of the order is also really good. I like every single hitter in this lineup. I hate to give you guys broad analysis, but it is daily fantasy sports, and we do have price tags. So if we're stacking this team up with a more expensive stack, we can go ahead and stack the bottom of the lineup. Whereas if we want to target the elite bats on the top, we can go ahead and fit them in with a cheaper stack on the other side. So to me, it's like great. I like every single hitter in the lineup. I can stack this team with whoever I want. I can stack whatever part of the order I want. But obviously, we are prioritizing Acuna, Swanson, Freeman, Ozuna. They're our top options. Travis d'Arnaud is a great catcher option. And then the bottom of the order, once again, hate to keep repeating myself, but they're cheaper, and you can go ahead and stack them up and feel great because they have a 5.9 implied team total. So love the Atlanta Braves today too. And then we have, a couple more spots. I'm going to go over my favorite spots. I'm going to go over 2 more spots. The first one being this Minnesota Twins team taking on the Detroit Tigers. They take on this Tariq Skubal kid who we don't really have a lot of data on at all. Looking at his numbers, he's only pitched 9 innings, but he is part of this Detroit Tigers pitching staff, which is god-awful. And they're taking on this Minnesota Twins team. And looking at his splits against right-handed hitting, very, very, very bad. 815 slugging, 65.2% hard hit rate, 495 WOBA, and just very red on my sheet, which, if you don't understand my sheet, it's color-coded from red to green. Red's very bad, so in the pitching category, if they have a lot of red going on, we're going to want to target them with bats. And green is very good. So I think that's known, but if not, I want to go ahead and explain that. And then against lefties, he's not any better. So yeah, Tariq Skubal, not good. And these Minnesota Twins have some guys that absolutely mash left-handed pitching. Most notably, Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz is in a great spot. You're going to pay up for him, but for good reason. Josh Donaldson, Miguel Sano. The bottom of the order is kind of average. So I really would target, the 2 through 4 stack, but the 2 through 4 stack is just ridiculously good today. They're in a great spot. So those guys I really love: Josh Donaldson, Nelson Cruz, and Miguel Sano. And then this last spot that I want to mention is this New York Yankees team taking on the Baltimore Orioles. And once again, a kid that we don't have a lot of data on, but he's on a pitching staff that is not good. And the bullpen's not good either. And then these Yankees do have some bats that can crush left-handed pitching. So this Keegan Atkin kid, I think he's going to have a rough outing against these Yankees today. Against righties, he has a 15% K rate, a 15% walk rate, a 46.2% fly ball rate. Just not good stuff across the board. And then against lefties, he's been very, very good. Once again, it's only 7 innings pitched, so take that for what you want. But the point is, I think that these Yankees have some guys that crush left-handed pitching, and I think they have some guys we can target today. And then, not to mention, they do have a 5.67 implied run total, and they're on the road, which we always like to target, as I mentioned earlier. DJ LeMahieu, Luke Voit, Clint Frazier, Gary Sanchez, Miguel Andujar, Higashioka, Tyler Estrada. I like all those righties, really, to be honest with you. Aaron Hicks in the 3 spot you can target because of his price tag, but he does excel more against right-handed pitching rather than lefties. However, with that being said, if the Yankees can go ahead and get Atkin out of this game early, he's going to get to take on the bullpen. So I think we can just go ahead and throw him in our stacks and feel good about that. But, to be honest with you, DJ LeMahieu and Luke Voit are the premier options. They're my favorite. But then the 4 through 7 range actually looks like a nice little cheap stack there. Clint Frazier, Gary Sanchez, Miguel Andujar, and Higashioka. They give you some salary relief, and then you can throw in Estrada if you want to add on another guy to that stack. So, yeah, definitely have to have interest in these Yankees today, and they're probably my last favorite spot of interest. So I'll go ahead and give you guys a quick little brief overview of what I've gone over in this breakdown and what I like today. Lucas Giolito, great pitching option, but he is priced up above Maeda and Garrett Cole on DraftKings, so we might want to go down to those guys in my opinion. But he is right in the blend with them, and definitely viable play. I like the Chicago White Sox righties a lot today. Eloy Jimenez, Jose Abreu, Edwin Encarnacion, Luis Robert. That order, that spot of the order looking real juicy in the middle. Tim Anderson, at the top is absolutely killing it against lefties, so he's top priority. And then you got James McCann at the bottom of the order, I like a lot in the catcher spot. Moving further along, these Los Angeles Angels, we still have to wait for the line to come out, but I do think that their righties are looking really good against this Bielak kid with the hitting conditions, and Bielak splits early on in his career. The only thing I would mention is the Houston Nationals bullpen is pretty solid, so maybe limits the appeal of the stack, but a guy like Mike Trout is well worth paying up today with those splits. The New York Mets, I like a lot. The lefties, love the lefties against Howard. His numbers I had pointed out earlier in the video, just very, very bad. Brandon Nimmo, Michael Conforto, Dominic Smith, Robinson Cano, love them. And then you have these Atlanta Braves. I like every single one of these Atlanta Braves, honestly. This lineup is just stacked up and down, and Eric Feyty's not good. And the Nationals bullpen isn't the greatest either. So, Acuna, Swanson, Freeman, Ozuna are top options, but then you can stack the bottom of the order. Like them a lot. I like Kenta Maeda as a pitching option a lot, and I really like this Josh Donaldson, Nelson Cruz, Miguel Sano stack for these Twins today. This New York Yankees Baltimore Orioles game I really like a lot for hitting options, and I also like Garrett Cole a lot. I think he's a top pitcher on the slate. While he has shown some struggles, I think he can go out there and show that strikeout rate and really rack him up today. So top option on the slate as far as I'm concerned for pitching. And I really like the Yankees bats, most notably from the right-handed side of the plate, but we can't throw in an Aaron Hicks to fill out our stack. So, DJ LeMahieu, Luke Voit, Gary Sanchez, Miguel Andujar, and Higashioka are very high. And then Clint Frazier in the 4th spot is also very high on my list. Those righties, gotta like them. Kyle Gibson, you can throw in your lineups for a cheap salary relief just because of the salary. And then Justice Sheffield, more in the mid-range, but probably more of a viable option than Kyle Gibson, to be honest. Taking on this Texas Rangers team, which has really struggled against left-handed pitching this year. And then you can target Trevor Cahill in this late game, taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks at the 6.6 price tag. If you do need some salary relief today, I do like Trevor Cahill as a salary relief option. So that's all for me today as far as this MLB DFS slate breakdown. Please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you will be notified for future videos. I wish you all the best of luck tonight, and have a good one.